It's been a while since I featured a Bulova here on my channel, and today we aren't looking at a Bulova, but we are looking at Caraval. This is their sister brand, meant to be more affordable, and they have reissued a very popular 666 dive watch from the 1960s and 70s, the Sea Hunter. I actually owned a vintage Sea Hunter. I'm going to show you pictures and videos of that watch during this video so you can see how close this new reissue of the Sea Hunter is to that original. So I have all four versions of this watch hands on, so let's flip the camera and take a look at the new Sea Hunter from Caraval by Bulova. So the Sea Hunter is back from Caraval. If you're not familiar with Caraval, they are a brand that was owned by Bulova, and they made watches that were somewhat more affordable than Bulova watches. They revived the brand not that long ago, and again, they are of course owned by Bulova. So they are called Caraval by Bulova. I think that's what they're calling it, at least. But the Sea Hunter was probably one of their most famous watches. It was a 666 Devil Diver, just like the Bulovas of the time. So they came out with this watch as a very straightforward, good-looking skin diver or dive watch, whatever you want to call it. And they have decided to reissue it, which I think is a really good move because this was probably one of the coolest watches that they've ever made, and it's one of the coolest watches in the whole entire Bulova family. So even through Caraval and Bulova, I think this is just a really good looking dive watch. I owned two of these, the vintage versions. Those were hand wound. They actually had a pretty nice movement in them. They were thin, they had a rotating bezel. It was just a very good looking dive watch. The dials here are very similar to those vintage models. I'll throw up a video of my vintage Sea Hunter that I made a video about here on my channel. So the dials you're going to see are pretty similar, and what you're getting on the dial on these is vintage colored lume. So you're getting this creamy lume. The dials are very clean. You have batons for the non-primary indices. For the 12, 9, and 6 you get numerals, and then you have a date at the 3 o'clock, taking the place of the index at the 3 o'clock. Everything is painted on the dial, and the minute track is very pronounced, so it actually sort of protrudes into the dial a little bit, so it's a little bit more pronounced than a normal minute track. Something that is a little bit different, this is getting a mineral crystal that is domed and slightly boxed. It is raised off of that bezel, as you can see, just a little bit. So that is a little bit different. That vintage version got an acrylic crystal, obviously, but it wasn't as domed as this is, so it's slightly more domed, and you get a little bit more distortion. And then you're getting an aluminum bezel insert in a stainless steel construction. The dial itself has just a little bit of wording on it. It says Caraval at the top of the dial, and then down at the bottom of the dial it says automatic water resistance 666 feet, because this is technically a Devil Diver. So that was the stainless steel version. They are making a few different versions. So these are the PVD coated gold version. So this is a rose gold, this is the yellow gold, this is on a blue strap, this is on a black strap, and they all get bezels that sort of match their dials. So this gets a blue bezel because you have a blue dial. This gets a black bezel because this is a black dial. Since these are on a strap, they are slightly less expensive than the versions on a bracelet. However, there is one more version on a bracelet, and I have that on my wrist, so let me show you that very quickly. That is the green version. So the green version gets a fully gold bracelet as well. So obviously it is ion plated or PVD coated, whatever you want to call it, but it is all brushed. So the bracelet is all brushed. There's some polishing on the buckle, and the case is polished. So the combination of those two, I'm not sure why they didn't put any polish on the bracelet except for the buckle. It kind of breaks it up a little bit. I like it, but it is a little bit weird that there is no continuity between that bracelet and the case. And they did the same thing for the stainless steel, but it doesn't look as obvious on the stainless steel, in my opinion. So that's what I would say. But other than that, I really like the green version on this gold. It just looks really expensive looking, for lack of a better term. And you do get an automatic movement in here. It is the Miyota 8215. So that is the Bulova Miyota 8215. This version is the most expensive. So this one is $395. The all stainless steel version is $375. I think this is probably the most practical out of all of them, and I would imagine this will be the best seller because $375 is a pretty good price for this watch, I would say. And I think it's really good looking. I think it's a good looking watch. I thought the vintage version was a very good looking watch. I think this is a very good looking watch. These come in at around 39 millimeters. You have around a 45 millimeter lug to lug and around a 14 millimeter thickness. That's my only problem with this watch, I think, is the fact that they've paired this with such a domed mineral crystal. It is kind of thick and it looks kind of thick. It's a little bit high on the wrist, so it's 14 millimeters thick. But other than that, I think it looks really good. And finally, the gold versions on the strap, those are coming in at $350. So, I mean, there you go. I think this is a really good looking watch for the price, especially considering that it is a historic watch. It has a history. Obviously, I would love to see a sapphire crystal on these watches, but at this price point, Bulova usually do not offer a sapphire crystal. So that's why you're getting that mineral crystal. You are getting the 8 Series Miyota movement, which is great. I think that's, a very good movement, and it's pretty much a workhorse movement. A lot of brands use it, especially now. More and more brands are using them in lieu of a Seiko movement. So I don't think it's a bad movement at all. They're easy to replace or repair. I just wish that they actually put a sapphire crystal on here and maybe put a milled clasp. Again, that would raise the price a lot. I just want to point these things out. Another thing that I was pleasantly surprised by is the bezel action. So the bezel action is actually really good on here. Let's take a listen. So for an inexpensive watch from a major brand, I figured that the bezel action wouldn't be all that good. It's actually really nice. It's nice and tight. It's not loose. There's no play in it at all, but it's not overly tight, and it sounds really good. The bracelet on here isn't terrible, but it's not the best bracelet that I've ever seen. It's a 3-link bracelet. You get quick release, has solid end links, and of course you're getting somewhat of a standard clasp on here. It's probably my only gripe with the bracelet. Like I was saying before, I wish that they would put something milled, maybe just a milled scissor here instead of having a pressed scissor. So that's my only real complaint about the bracelet. I mean, the bracelet is a pretty nice bracelet considering the price on this watch. Again, $375. Not a bad bracelet. It's all stainless steel, and it is pretty solid. You do have only 3 positions of manual micro adjust, so just something to keep in mind. There you go. Lume is decently applied to the hands. As you can see, they are pretty bright. You have that shovel hand for the hour, so that is pretty bright. This is a 200-meter dive watch, so you have a screwed-in crown, a screwed-in case back. There is no lume on the second hand. I would like to see a little bit of lume on the second hand so that I could see my watch is working in the dark, especially on a dive watch, so I always say that. But other than that, I think the lume is pretty decent on those hands and that pip. However, the dial, it is fading pretty quickly, so I would like to see a little bit more lume on the dial. All that considered, this is a sub $400 watch from a major brand, and I think it's a pretty good looking watch, especially the dial. I love the layout of this watch, and I really like that gold version, but I would probably go for the non-coated version in stainless steel on the bracelet for only around $25 more. It makes a lot more sense than getting it on a strap. It's only $25 more. So if you are interested in this watch, I suggest going for the stainless steel on the stainless steel bracelet. It just makes a lot of sense, I think. It's a good-looking, everyday dive watch that is pretty reliable because you're getting a very reliable movement inside, and it's made by Bulova. Tell me what you guys think down in the comments below. I will put links to each one of these watches down in the description. Definitely check them out if you are interested. And that is really it, guys. Thank you for logging on. Thank you for watching this video. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon, and I will catch you guys in the next video.